You're at 7 o'clock, Mayor. That might be his family now.
All right, we expecting anyone? Should we just start? We're okay? All right. All right, let's all stand and do a pledge. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You can sit, but I will ask for a moment of silence. We have a lot of reasons for moments of silence. We've had a million Americans have lost their lives due to COVID. Our flags are flying at half-staff. And we have the travesty up in Buffalo. And actually, we had a homicide here in Beacon over the weekend as well. Chris will tell you a little bit more about that, but let's just do a moment of silence for everyone. All right, thank you. I can see from the roll call, I see Molly, Justice, George, Ren, Dan, and Lee's here. I believe, is Paloma online?
Paloma is online. Hi, Paloma.
Hey there. So we have full house. And I thought I saw our city attorney, I think, Drew, you're online?
I am online, that is correct.
Okay, and the city administrator happens to be here too, so that's full house. Okay, so first is on the agenda is the opportunity for public comments.
Mayor, before we get into public comments, I'd like to actually put a motion on the table under our local laws and resolutions, number 3, authorizing the city administrator to execute an agreement related to Mount Beacon Reservoir Dam and Pocket Dam rehabilitation. I understand we'll be asked we're asked to vote on this tonight, and we actually haven't had a chance to discuss it publicly. So I would like to entertain a motion that before public comment session, we have our discussion. That way any public who's listening in or here live is able to ask any questions they might have, and then we can still vote on it later if we decide to.
All right, so I will interpret that motion as a motion to move the discussion of item 3 in front of public comment in the agenda.
Correct,
without
yes.
voting on the item.
Correct, yes.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of amending the agenda as described?
Aye. Aye.
So, before we do public comment, and in anticipation of public comment, let's see if we can explain what item 3 is. So item 3 would authorize the city administrator to execute an agreement with Doyle Contracting, which is for the Mount Beacon Reservoir Dam and Pocket Dam rehabilitation. So Chris, can you both tell us what it's about and also why we're doing it quickly?
Why we're doing it quickly, or
Yes.
You want me to tell you quickly?
Yes.
Okay. This is to approve a contract with the low bidder on a project that is a rehabilitation of our Mount Beacon Reservoir Dam and the Pocket Dam. And I'll give you just a little bit of context, particularly for people that are tuning in that may not know why we have these dams or what they do. Our drinking water system's comprised of 3 major dams: Cargill, Milzinga, and Mount Beacon. A pocket dam, which is at the bottom of the creek that comes out of Mount Beacon, which is much smaller, and then 2 major wells that are in the town of Fishkill. The Mount Beacon Dam has approximately 125 million gallons of water in it. We use about 2 to 3 million gallons of water a day. So it's an important part of our system, our second largest reservoir behind Cargill. And we have to stay up with regulations on the dams. So the New York State DEC regulates dams like this, which are considered a Class C high hazard dam. And they want to make sure that as climate changes and the amount of water coming in these rain events increases, that we have enough capacity to handle it with our dam. So the primary thing that this project will do is increase the spillway capacity. The spillway is the little area where water runs out of the dam in a controlled manner, and it usually goes down a tailwater that has riprap or controlled. And what you don't want is for these dams to overtop. in a storm where they get too high. So what we're basically doing is raising the height of the dam or increasing the crest. And then the other part of it is on the downstream side, there hasn't been a lot of work over the last decade. So we're going to do a whole resurfacing of that to make sure that water seepage isn't an issue, that it's stabilized. And there's some other safety improvements, such as getting rid of corroding metal parts in our valve system so that we don't go to turn something off and then it just breaks. And then also safety improvements for the workers that have to go on these dams and inspect that. So that's what we're doing to Mount Beacon and at Pocket Dam. It's largely the same. That's a low hazard dam and it only has 200,000 gallons in it, but it's an important part of our system. So we'll be doing a lot of work on that. The low bid came in at $2,758,340, which is right in alignment with the engineer's estimate. Unfortunately, we did the capital program for this back in 2019 for one dam in 2020. So we're about $400,000 shy. So we'll be bringing you a budget resolution in early June that's being prepared. And then we also will have to add some money for the construction inspection. The reason we wanted to do this quickly is because there's long lead items that have to be ordered, particularly the metal components. And because we don't have a meeting next week and we don't have another voting meeting until June 6th, we would appreciate the council entertaining this without having it at a workshop. Yeah, I'll leave it at that and ask if anybody has questions.
Chris, can you talk more about the financial and budget situation related to this? I know we're not going to do the budget amendment tonight, but it was in a capital budget in 2019 and was never used.
Yes, so we tend to authorize things a few years ahead. Mm-hmm. We had to authorize the design and part of the construction for both of these dams. I think, if memory serves, we did Mount Beacon in 2019 and then the Pocket in 2020. The Pocket was a little more underfunded. That came in actually higher than we thought it would be by over 200,000, and then the other dam is a little less. That's not a significant change for us because right now in the water fund balance, we have a good healthy fund balance, so that won't be a big issue. In fact, this is really good news because when we bid this out in late fall of last year, this came in over $1 million over budget. And so by going back with the engineers and having them redesign how the buttresses work and the scope of work, we were able to bring it down more than $700,000.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Yeah. So we were, Ed and I were very nervous when we opened the bids last week, and this was very good news. So we had two bids. Doyle is the low bidder, and our engineer has recommended we go with them. I'm sorry that Ed couldn't be with us tonight, but he had already had a leave day lined up to do something.
Other questions, comments?
And Melzinga Dam, remind me where?
Melzinga is in the town of Fishkill, just south of us off of 9D.
I remember Ed presented on that at the beginning of last year, and there was also a good bit of work that needed to be done there.
Melzinga is being designed now by the same firm, WSP, and we hope to, when we bring you the capital program in 2 weeks, stay tuned, we'll have that in there for construction as well. And Melzinga is a much smaller dam. It's only 58 million gallons, and we generally use that in the beginning of the year, and then we draw it down and then move to the other sources.
But there's a higher cost associated with that one still?
Yes.
Yes.
And access is an issue, too. Like our dam on Mount Beacon, it's great that it's up on top of the mountain because you don't have farms and stuff that have runoff going into it. Mm-hmm. But that does add cost in getting all of the materials up the mountain. So.
And let me add something, and Drew, Chris, make sure I do it right. When we approve a capital plan, we're approving the concepts of the spending. You still have to put it into a budget to approve. Mm-hmm. And so is that correct? I got it wrong?
It's kind of wrong.
Okay.
A little bit. The way we've normally treated it is that if you put it into the capital plan, you've basically authorize the spending. What comes back to is the contract for the spending.
Right, but then you have to put into the budget the implications of the spend, right?
That comes later on.
Yep.
Yeah, so when we bond this, eventually that bonding cost will go into our operating budget. We'll have a financing cost.
And so when we approve a capital plan, so I just want to follow that up, you're saying that this is the authorization of the expenditure, though. This is the authorization of executing the agreement.
Yes,
Got it.
what you just said.
Yeah, and we both have to put it in the capital plan and then authorize the execution of the agreement depending on how the bids come in.
Correct.
And then in the budget, we have to put in the implications of that when the dough gets spent, and we have to pay it back through bonding or general fund.
That's correct. So like for the life of a facility, like a dam might be, this might be a 30-year project. And again, our bid council has a schedule of how that works. A car is 8 years. A building could be 30 or 40 years. The pipes underground could be 40 years. And you amortize it over that length with the interest, and then we put our yearly financing cost into the operating budget. Yeah.
And about how much of our, this is in the water and sewer fund, so it's a bigger number. The portion of the water and sewer fund budget that is paying debt is north of 20% or so. I think that's the number. In the general fund, it's
in the general fund, I don't know beyond the general fund. I know we're at about 2.9 million in the general fund.
Right,
Of
which
the
is
24 million a year.
yeah, so it's north of 10% in the general fund, but I think it's north of 20 in the water.
I
and
think
sewer
it's
fund.
higher in the wastewater, in the
Yeah.
sewer fund right now. But I can get you that for the conversation that we have in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
When Sue Tucker, who knows all of this,
Okay.
she'll wow you.
Great.
Yeah.
And I'm just asking questions to get a little more information out, right? So.
Okay.
And then the other question I would ask is, and you've mentioned this, which is, this is part 2 of our dam work, and then there's another one coming after that?
This is part 1.
1? Okay.
Yeah, so Mount Beacon needed it the most. The pocket we included because we were losing about 90,000 gallons of water a day through seepage. So it not only was to stabilize the dam, but it was also to make sure that the raw water resources we have aren't squandered. The next one will be Melzinga. Cargill right now looks good, other than minor maintenance that we do. I think Cargill is in pretty good shape.
And prior projects on the water side have been about the wells and then also about water treatment.
And the distribution system, yeah.
Okay.
So we have a network of 50 miles of pipes that have to be maintained, and pumps, and you've also approved tanks. We have at least 4 tanks that help to store the water and then pressurize the system. In the capital plan, you'll see we have another tank replacement that we're going to be doing right next to the pocket dam. So that's, after this and Melzinga, that's the next big item.
So, and also for context, the city's been slowly catching up on its infrastructure investment over the last 20 years and has made a ton of progress. And it's pretty amazing in many ways. And
Your
so
system's in pretty good shape
Yeah.
overall.
So,
And the water system also includes, you've previously authorized new meters, which we'll be implementing this year or possibly next year. And then it also includes the fire suppression system, so more than 600 hydrants. So there's a lot of stuff that comes under our water department. They do everything from dams to wells to the distribution system.
okay, other questions, comments? Again, we'll have an opportunity to discuss further, but I think it was a wise thing to do to bring it up in front of public comments so that if anyone wanted to make any comments, they could.
It's important to have a dam conversation.
There you go. So, okay. So now we can get to public comments. This is the first opportunity for public comments. I've got a list here. I've got to go through the list first. You all know you get 3 minutes on any topic. Other than a public hearing, there are no public hearings today, and the first name I see on the list is Dennis Pavlock.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, City Administrator. My comments are in regards to the April 30th meeting on safety and police reform. I have some suggestions. I'd like to add them into the minutes if I could for that. I know I had a conflict on Castle Point and the Poughkeepsie Elks Club. I couldn't be there. I wanted to be there, but I had to go to what affected the veterans on that myself. So my comments are as follows. I believe at our city, we are ready, however, not prepared. I am not embracing a worst-case scenario by no means. Our city services such as police, fire, ambulance, and our first responders are first rate, however, underutilized in our community. Our emergency services and first responders could and should be used to everyone's advantage, such as mock drills and tabletop exercises. Case in point, on April 12, 2022, a man walked on the subway in New York City and ignited smoke canisters and shot multiple people. Even though this incident was 60 miles south of us, it does make you think about what's possible, as we saw in Buffalo this past Saturday, and a small plane crashed on a busy highway in Miami, Florida, killing one person. Our mock drills should not be limited to Spirit of Beacon Day festivities and any other day of an event that it falls upon. Saturdays, Sundays, Memorial Park. We used to do this 40 years ago. I used to be a part of the drills. One weekend a month drill should consist of simulated DWI stop. These are just suggestions on my part. The process to arrest someone, how to get someone out of a smoke-filled building, and someone having a fake heart attack. The list is endless and the possibilities are real. What and how mock drills will do for our city, I believe. It will give training to our first responders personnel that they might not be receiving now. It will inform residents with a visual process without giving too much away. Also, it will let communities see that we are the beacon, ready and prepared beacon that we are and should be. So I'd like to give this copy to the city administrator for copies to the council. I was, my 20 years when I was here every other Monday or every Monday, I was touting emergency preparedness. I think we can do better.
15 seconds.
So I think we can do better. I know we should do better, and the mock drills should be getting organized. It doesn't take a lot of preparedness to do it, and we can start. Thank you.
Thank you. Teresa Kraft.
Good evening, Teresa Kraft. As a lifelong Girl Scout, I totally agree with being prepared. First, I want to say I love the new copper roof of the building's dormers. It adds character. If we're looking at the finer details in the building boom and this new renaissance, I think the city and the community would look deeper at the bigger picture and continue to push back against some of the current development plans that are clearly out of character with our Main Street and those surrounding neighborhoods in which they are being proposed. Scaling back to appropriate does not equate to anti-development. It means preserving the integrity of our city's historic streetscape and views. For the way, I am still opposed to the large-scale projects in the pipeline at Main and Cross, Main and Skank, and 364 Main Street across from the historic post office. We are not a metropolis, but one thing is for sure, we're on the verge of being soulless. We've already opened the floodgates. Tonight's agenda talks about working on our reservoirs and dams, but we also need to fix the flood of traffic. Traffic safety is public safety, and today we're continuing to take action against traffic safety concerns, but we need to look beyond paving and signage. Traffic violence is quickly becoming the norm. Speeding and reckless driving behavior puts everyone on Beacon's roads at risk, including the main roads and the back roads. The aggression we are encountering is alarming, and in the mix, people-to-people violence is also on the uptake. Please, people, it's time to take that chill pill. Thank you.
Thank you. That's everyone on the list. If there's anyone else in person here who wants to speak with a public comment, now's the time. Make sure you state your name and where you live.
Clark Edmond, 2 Wilson Street. Good evening, folks. Mr. City Manager,
that traffic light still is unresolved in front of my, or not traffic light, but street light. Really appreciate, it's been almost 2 years now, and several requests. I would appreciate it taken care of. I had an incident at the house that could have been prevented possibly if for the lack of a light at the end of that cul-de-sac. But moving on, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a big night. In many ways, what I've been discussing for the last 20 years in the city of Beacon regarding the lack of certain types of infrastructure now today presents itself in new light. With the 3 districts designed now by the master or the 2, and the assembly district staying roughly the same, the Senate district now going down to Haverstraw and just a little bit of Beacon, leaves Beacon a little limpy in the context of the larger issues of like reaching out to Stewart Airport and how you get across the river and the development of the regions. This is the only region in the state that doesn't have a public university. 1.3 million people. Buffalo has Albany, Long Island, cities full of them. That's the only 2.3 million people without a state university. The interesting thing about the congressional district is that it now takes up just about all of Dutchess, except for Bowling and East Fishkill. And doesn't go down to Putnam, so I don't know what Sean's going to do. But it does include, for the most part, Orange County. And the court, I wrote the court and I said, you know, not for nothing, but these should be intact for the transportation reasons. And I said, maybe we should try like a hypotenuse from, you know, top of Orange County cross over to Poughkeepsie. And the court actually went up as high as Kingston. So we now have a congressional district that I call duo, Dutchess, Ulster, and Orange. And from my viewpoint, it's important for the city of Beacon because of its location to take the step of being a leadership role in the advocacy of the transportation and education systems that are long overdue for this district. And Beacon, because of its location in relationship to Newburgh and the airport, is in the cat's bird seat as regards to that congressional district. And I would encourage the city of Beacon to call for the effect of a private-public utility formed by the local governments within, let's just say, 20 miles of here, and to begin to address in commonality to the district the transportation, the federal transportation and education needs of the district. And I hope to help this discussion along, but I would really hope that the city of Beacon act proactively to assist the state government fulfill the region's education and transportation needs. And when I talk about education and higher education, public higher education, I'm talking about pre-K all the way to college. And from my viewpoint, I think that there should be 9 districts in the state, all of them responsible for all the educational activities. Thank you, and thank you for the extra minute.
Thank you, Clerk. Anyone else? Sure. Let us know who you are, where you live, even if we know.
Thomas Wright, 24 Grove Street, Mayor Kiriakou, and members of the council. My comment is in regards to the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, otherwise known as the CLCPA. Specifically, I would like to know the City of Beacon's position relative to the CLCPA draft scoping plan and whether or not the city has provided or plans to provide comments on the draft scoping plan during the public comment phase. The Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, or Climate Act, was signed into law in 2019 as one of the most ambitious climate laws in the world. The law created the Climate Action Council, which is tasked with developing a draft scoping plan that serves as an initial framework for how the state will reduce greenhouse gas emissions and achieve net zero emissions, increase renewable energy usage, and ensure climate justice. The Climate Action Council is seeking comments from the public regarding the draft scoping plan during the public comment phase. The public hearings are now closed, but written comments will be accepted through June 10th of this year. Incidentally, I'm very excited about what I know of the city's plans for transitioning towards renewables and reduction of carbon emissions within the city's operations. I applaud these efforts and thank you for your hard work you have done in establishing and achieving mitigation goals. This is critically important given the lack of success the federal government has achieved in moving climate-related legislation forward. In the absence of real progress at that level, it will be up to states, communities, and individuals to set and reach goals. Because of this, New York State's ambitious goals are truly something to get excited about. The CLCPA draft scoping plan outlines 3 scenarios for achieving those goals. It is vitally important for citizens of this state to voice their opinion about these scenarios and about the scoping plan in general. But if it is important for individuals to provide comments, it is even more important for elected bodies such as this one to do so. After all, not only do you represent a constituency, you represent authority and leadership. And you will be in good company. During the last meeting, the Board of Education of Beacon City Schools agreed to prepare and submit written comments in the draft scoping plan. I attended the final in-person meeting in Peekskill on May 12th. While it was great to hear of all the testimony, the comments with greatest impact came from those representing large organizations and municipal governments. Perhaps the City of Beacon has already provided comments. If it has, thank you. I thank you and request this feedback be shared with the community. Sorry. It is likely something to celebrate as part of your climate action efforts. In addition, perhaps information regarding the CLCPA, draft scoping plan, and public comment phase could be placed on the city's website. Thank you for your time and for all the work you do for this community.
Thanks. Anyone else in the physical public want to make a comment this evening? Okay, and then let's check online, see who we got.
You have
If
no
you're on
raised
Zoom
hands.
and you'd like to make a comment, please use the raise hand option at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're on a phone, you can press *9. If you're watching on YouTube, you will have to join the Zoom by visiting beaconny.gov. Mayor, right now we have no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay. Well, there'll be a second opportunity for public comments if someone thinks of something along the way they want to let us know. So I'm just letting you know that we obviously still do the combination in person and online meeting, and that will continue at least through June 4th, 14th?
Second week.
Yeah.
Actually, Mayor, it was just extended, so it goes to June 14th. That's correct.
All right, June 14th. We have no public hearings, so let's do reports from the council. You want to start with Dan, or do you want to do something first about our homicide?
Yeah, I could do that if you
All right,
want.
yeah, why don't you do that first?
So many of you have heard we had a fatal shooting at Forrestal Heights on Saturday night. The city would like to express its condolences to the family. We would like information that anyone has on the shooting, so if anyone is willing to, on a confidential basis, share information with the police department, please call 845-831-4111. I just will remind you, we're flushing hydrants for the next 3 weeks, so we are not being profligate with our water. We are cleaning the system, and you'll see that happening in different parts of the city. We are opening our annual bulk garbage-free drop-off tomorrow. It will run from May 17th till September 24th, and residents on whose properties taxes are up to date can bring 250 pounds of various material. The only thing that's not accepted in that 250 pounds are specialty items that we normally take and you have to pay on a per unit thing. So any electronics or tires are additional, but construction waste, general debris can all be brought down and dropped off. And again, we're open on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and our center that accepts these materials is at the bottom of Dennings Avenue, next to the wastewater treatment plant. And then finally, I just want to let you know the bathrooms have been opened again at Green Street Park and Memorial Park. We have had several $1,000s in vandalism, though, in both facilities. So I'm going to ask the community to please keep an eye on these. If we can't continue to fix sinks and changing stations and pull rocks out of pipes. So if that continues, we're either going to have to put more money into that line or think about, again, we opened these after 30 years, and they were closed due to vandalism. So we've had quite a bit of vandalism in both facilities. And I would just ask people to please take care of these so we can leave them open.
Okay.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Great. Dan, you want to come around the horn? Sure. Great. Thank you.
Okay. So firstly, I'd like to share with everybody that this coming Sunday at the Farmers Market, Ren and I will be there with a booth for pollinator pathways, and we will be giving away pollinator garden seed, wildflower seed that is appropriate for our region and our zone. And we will be giving away plants and hopefully some plugs. So if you have been thinking about creating a pollinator-friendly garden or a small pollinator planting in your yard or on your mailbox, however big it may be, come on down and get some free seeds and plants from us. We'll be there from 10 to 2 o'clock. I'd also like to congratulate the Beacon Historical Society on a really wonderful grand reopening ceremony on Saturday, very well attended. It was a fantastic event, and the whole community should be proud, and the Historical Society should be proud for all of the work that's gone into creating this new space. Some of the new galleries were named for community members. Among them, Robert J. Murphy, who is longtime history guru of Beacon. You can check out the new Historical Society site on Thursdays from 10 to 12 and Saturday from 12 to 4. So bring the whole family down, and you'll learn and see a lot. It's really great stuff. I'd also like to congratulate all of the students who were in the Student Film Festival this weekend. The elementary school, middle school, and high school kids put together some amazing videos, and it was a really fun night, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of this. And I just also want to congratulate the newly formed Foundation for Beacon City Schools for all of their hard work and commitment in that. And I've gotten a few emails recently about the accident on Phillips and Walcott on Saturday morning. There was a car accident, and you can continue to write me, but I just want you to know that I'm aware of it, and Chris and I have spoken about some things that could possibly be done there. So we are looking into it. I just don't want to share anything until we know what we can actually do at that intersection. Walcott's a state road, as I understand it. So we'll see what we can do. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan. I was in most of the places Dan was. I also enjoyed the Beacon Historical Society ribbon cutting very much, and the 37, I think it was, films from our young folks from, let's see, I think first grade. Was there a kindergarten film? And all the way up through middle and high schoolers. So there was just, there's a lot of talent in our little filmmakers. And I also want to congratulate the city for having a peaceful demonstration for reproductive rights. We sandwiched that in between the ribbon cutting and the film festival. It was a very busy and very wonderful Beacon weekend, lots of walking. I can tell everyone that it is possible 100% to go from one end of Beacon to the other with 2 small children, and it takes all day, but you can hit 3 events and do all that walking, and then the next day you have to put your feet up. So that's it for Ward 3.
Thanks, George. Not too much significant to report, but I just wanted to remind everyone to vote for the school board elections and the budget coming up tomorrow. That's it. Thanks. Okay.
I'll start with on Wednesday, this Wednesday, May 18th at 6:30 p.m. I am hosting a Ward 2 meeting. It's a community meeting for all residents of Ward 2 to come and talk about the issues in the ward and things that they love about the ward, to meet their neighbors and to meet their council member or members. I really want to thank the Highway Department for the amazing job that they did on Main Street. It looks incredible. And I want to thank, so thank you for that. I'm feeling really heavy right now. There is a lot going on in the world, in our state, and in our community. And I want to hold space for everybody who is hurting right now. For so many marginalized people in, again, our state and our community, we're seeing rights being taken away. We're seeing lynchings happening in 2022, and it is hard. It is hard. I just want to offer myself, if you need somebody to talk to, please feel free to email me, schedule a call with me, schedule a coffee with me. I'm here. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Justice. Yes, so I have some office hours coming up for Ward 1 this coming Friday, May 20th, from 4 to 6 p.m. at Homespun Foods on Main Street. I wanted to thank our volunteer firefighters who came to our last public comment session and then also invited Justice and I to attend one of their monthly meetings. And so we got to hear more about what's on their mind. And as Dan was saying, people emailing about the streets or other community groups coming forward, we really appreciate doing that. And we're always here for you to reach out to us through our email, through our office hours, or other forms of communication, and we always appreciate when you do that. I will echo what Justice said about Main Street looking fabulous, and it's great to be able to walk down it and cross in crosswalks that correspond to where they're supposed to be crosswalks, and also all the events that were this weekend, including Second Saturday that I didn't make it out to because I was so exhausted from all the events that Dan and Ren already mentioned. But it's just great to see our community open up and people also continuing to be safe where it's practical and possible to do so. And lastly, before I pass it to Paloma, who's online tonight, I will echo the heaviness that Justice mentioned. It's a lot right now. There's a lot going on. The air is literally heavy, even after that rainstorm. I was hoping it would be a little less oppressive, but I kind of call on all the love and light that I know we have in this community, and I saw it this weekend, and I believe that we're possible for us to continue doing that. So Paloma, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you, Molly. I would also like to offer my condolences to the Pittman family and any other community members who've been affected by the violence this weekend, either locally or further away. I know that grief affects everybody differently, but if speaking to a council member is something that you would like about speaking about just sharing your experiences, I'm available to all Beaconites. My email is pwake@beacony.gov, and my phone number is 845-418-2452. And then I basically just have a lot of thank yous. Thank you to everyone who has participated in our first community quarterly so far. Please vote, if you haven't already, vote on which ideas for community safety are your priorities. Voting is open through next Monday, May 23rd at 4 p.m. Online, the ballot is at bit.ly/beaconcqballot, or you can find it on our website. Paper ballots are also available at City Hall, the Rec Center, and the Howland Library during regular operating hours. I wanted to thank everyone for their public comments, and to quickly follow up with Dennis, thank you for sharing your idea about emergency preparedness, and I will try and follow up to see how this might be incorporated into the community quarterly process. And thank you to Thomas Wright for verbalizing the comments. You actually submitted 2 weeks ago, and apologies for not reading them out loud then, but just to respond quickly, for my own part, I've not yet submitted official comments on the plan, but we'll share them with the public when I do. And finally, I want to thank everyone who came out to my office hours 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago. I appreciate every conversation that I had. No idea is too big or too small to bring to those office hours. As always, they're second Sundays from 4 to 6 p.m. And that's it for me.
Thank you all. I won't be long. Saturday was a interesting day. We had the opportunity to go to the opening of the Historical Society building. I just add one thing. When we first came to Beacon, the Historical Society was in the room off to the left as you enter the Howland Center, and it was about the size of these tables to about that half wall, not much more than that, and it just had piles of stuff. And it was really cool stuff because you could go in and see, but the space is pretty amazing. So that was the first thing. As with Ren and others, I also attended a peaceful demonstration across the street at Pole Hill. I'm always pleased that the city has a space that allows for that. And then finally, Saturday evening, I was on the scene at the homicide, and I had an opportunity to observe our police department, which I thought did a great job, and then also just to talk with neighbors. So it was pretty full and unusual Saturday. So other than that, I just got a couple other things. One, so Paloma, you're taking the thank yous away from me. It's like mostly my job, because we have such a great set of employees, is usually to say thanks. And I will do a specific call out on the Main Street repaving. I think it was a great job. I walked on Main Street on Saturday and Sunday and got a lot of compliments on it. And all those compliments belong to the building and the water department, and for the planning done by
Highway and Water Department.
I'm sorry, Highway and Water Department, right? And the planning done by the managers and the city administrator. So thank you. And then lastly, I just got a proclamation. It's on Lyme disease. So May is Lyme Disease Awareness Month. I will not read the whole thing. I'll say a couple of things. So whereas New York has a disproportionately large share of the nation's total number of reported Lyme disease cases, in fact, we're second in the nation. And there was a period where Dutchess County was actually the epicenter of Lyme in this region. And whereas Lyme disease has received increased public attention, it is still frequently misdiagnosed and underreported, and much more problematic to treat once it has spread and caused serious injury. And then whereas it can be difficult to treat, it can also be prevented if certain precautionary steps are taken. So, and then finally, whereas increasing public awareness can help the community combat this public health problem by encouraging prevention. So now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Beacon does proclaim the month of May as Lyme Disease Awareness Month, and that's it. And I think the city administrator spoke first. Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm all done.
Okay. So let's do our next order of business. And I see there's a crowd out here. It's mostly police department employees in civilian uniforms, or maybe their family. But I've got looking for a motion and a second, appointing police officer Trevor Wood to the position of police detective.
Motion, second.
So I heard George and Molly. Any discussion? Does the chief want to say a word about Officer Wood before he becomes Detective Wood? Or not?
It's up to you. I can go over his pedigree again, as I did in the executive session. Or?
Because it's in public, if you could do the brief version?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Trevor, why don't you come up? Okay. Trevor Wood, he's 35 years of age. He was born and raised in the city of Beacon. He has an associate's degree in criminal justice from Hudson Valley Community College. Trevor started his career in law enforcement in 2009. He graduated from the Ulster County Police Academy, and he was first employed by the Village of Ellenville Police Department. While he was in Ellenville, he gained some investigative experience working, assisting with Urgent, which is the Ulster County Gang Enforcement Narcotics Team. He assisted with multiple narcotic investigations there, one of them leading to 64 sealed indictments. In 2013, Trevor transferred to the Village of Wappingers Police Department. While working at Wappingers, he was certified as a New York State field trainer, police field trainer, New York State General Topics instructor for police, taser instructor, and a Narcan instructor. He also did some investigative work there, concentrating on narcotic and prostitution cases in the village. He was hired in the city of Beacon on March 14th, 2016. He was utilized as a field trainer for our new officers while he was here in patrol. He's also the department's taser instructor. He's attended autism awareness training, and he's just completed last month the OC instructor's course. Trevor was assigned the Detective Bureau on January 10th of this year. Sergeant Alan Castro had retired. We promoted Detective Phillips to replace Sergeant Alan Castro, and Officer Wood was assigned to the Detective Bureau to replace Detective Phillips. Typically what we do is we put someone in the Bureau for a while and see how everything works out, make sure the department is happy with their performance in the Detective Bureau, and also to make sure that the officer decided that's what he wants to do. It's a big change from working patrol. We've been happy with Trevor. Looks like Trevor's been happy with the Detective Bureau. He's been doing a good job there. There is certain training that's required to be a detective that Trevor's already has started and completed, that being the FBI Basic Photography course, the FBI Crime Scene Photography course, the Child Forensic Interview, and also Basic Juvenile Investigation. Trevor has not been a subject to any personnel complaints or discipline or lawsuits. And one trait I like about Trevor is he can talk to anybody. That's one of my favorite. Regardless of who you are, whether you're a suspect, a victim, a witness, Trevor's really good at building a rapport with people and being able to have a conversation. And that's what's one of my favorite traits with Trevor here. If anyone has any questions.
Either for the chief or for Officer Wood.
Officer Wood, if you wouldn't mind sharing what you did when we gathered together as a group, just about why you want to be a police officer and a detective in particular, and what you bring to the police force, that would be great.
Well, like we were saying last time, community service just runs through my family. Going from my grandfather, who born and raised in Beacon, 1918, served in the Navy, Bronze Star winner, to my uncle, who passed away in Vietnam as a corpsman medic. My godfather was my cousin as chief of police in the village of Ellenville. I have another cousin who is a police officer in the city of Poughkeepsie. We're very community-oriented family, something we've always believed in. Many people who know me, who know my family in the city, know we just get involved in everything, from being an altar boy at St. John's to being a Boy Scout, just very community-oriented based. I've always loved investigations. I mean, every kid wants to be a detective when they grow up. I like the chief says, to talk with people, to be in the community. Don't cut me off at 5 minutes, because I'll keep going.
I will cut you off in 5 minutes.
It's just something that's always, meant something to me. So I like the one-on-one and actually seeing something from the beginning to the end. So
Thank you.
no problem.
Any other comments, questions? All right, so.
I would like to abstain from this vote.
Okay. So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And I'm recording one abstention. Okay, I got a book. You got to sign it.
Can we
You
do a
ready?
quick signing in, and we'll do photos? And yeah.
Thank you.
No, not me. This is it. Yes.
All right. Other side. Yeah, come around this side, because I'll be over here. Okay. Cool. So let's do this. Raise a hand. I, Trevor Wood,
I, Trevor Wood,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of detective for the Beacon Police Department,
of detective for Beacon Police Department,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
And you're on.
All right. Thank you so much.
And then, I don't know, do we do photo or something or other?
If you want to have your family and do a photo, we can send that on to.
I'm sure my mother's been waiting for this for a long time.
A little gruff.
Well, she's just looking for something to eat.
Now you just got to have her look this way.
She's doing good. Get her quick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll send those to
Unreal.
you. She's got it down there.
Thank you, congratulations.
They never do that.
Like, really animated.
Yeah.
Right? Like, as
Yeah.
soon as she saw the camera, she
Yeah.
she's going to be a politician one day. Or a clown.
Okay. Have a good night.
All right. Next item is adopting a local, we need a, the next item is number 70. It's a local law amending Chapter 5, Section 20 regarding the ward boundaries of the city of Beacon. Can I get a motion and a second on this one?
Motion.
Second?
That was Ren and Dan. So is it Drew or Chris that's going to start on this one?
I'm hoping it's Drew.
Okay.
Drew, you.
Yeah, not a problem. So this is a local law. We've been discussing it for a couple weeks now. The city code requires that the town kind of evaluate the ward lines after the census, which is exactly what we've done. State law sets forth the requirements about what the variation in population can be within each ward. So in response to that, we look at the changes in population. They were pretty minor this time around, but did require some modification to the ward boundary lines. We've prepared, well, I didn't prepare, but John Clark, working with the mayor, prepared the revised maps. And then in response to that, we also prepare a textual change to amend Chapter 5, where the ward boundaries are set forth. So that's what this local law does. It amends the ward boundaries as they're shown in Chapter 5 of the city code.
Okay.
And Mayor, just to add one thing, as the ward representatives talk about their hours, and I'm in Ward 1 or 3 or 4, if anybody wonders about the boundaries of the ward, we do have the current boundaries on the city council page for the city. So if you go to the city's website, there's a page with the map. That will only be changing in a minor way with this. But we do have the 4 wards, and you can figure out what election district and ward you're in.
And also, just to reiterate, that these boundaries, if we were to pass them right now, will not be changing until the next
2023
election cycle. So for those who live in a place where your boundary might be changing, that you will have an opportunity to, you're still represented by the same person you are after we vote, if we decide to pass it, and that you'd have an opportunity to meet the new person, you know, whoever we running in your district, which might be someone sitting at this table and might be someone new. So.
About the electoral districts, how do those get carved up after we finish this?
Yeah, so what happens is the districts that require relatively equal size of population have to get developed by each local government. So we have to do wards, and then the county has to do county legislative districts, and they have to make those roughly the same size. And in so doing, there may be like a part of a ward that is in one ledge district versus another. So once you get those, and then also Assembly and Senate and congressional districts may also cut lines. When all that is said and done, there's also the elections law says that it was based on how many votes could come out of an election machine. That election district should be about somewhere in the 800 to no more than 1,000 voters. And so, for instance, a ward is more than 2,000 voters. And so even if it's intact and there's no other line dividing it, the Board of Elections may come up with an election district given that restriction as well. So we end up with either 2 or 3 election districts per ward, given that it's sort of in that 800 to 1,000 range that they're looking at, right? Then as you know, we have this very tiny little election district. That was because a county legislative line didn't match up with a ward line, right? So we're going to try to eliminate that. And then let me provide the summary of what the changes are. They're very, very minor. Between Matawan and Fishkill Avenue, the Ward 1-3 boundary is moving from Verplank up 1 block to Kent. Okay, so between Matawan and Fishkill, from Verplank up to Kent, so it's taking a little bit from Ward 3 and putting it into Ward 1. Then in addition, from Fishkill, that same boundary is moving 1 block over to Skank. So from Herbert, I believe, it's moving 1 block over from Fishkill Ave, from Herbert down to Main Street. That's the second change. And then the third change is between Wards 3 and 4, and right now there's a line that runs Ward 4 from Grove Street down to Liberty, and what that line is doing is it's moving along Grove Street over to DePeyster instead of just Liberty.
From Washington over to
I'm sorry,
DePeyster.
from Washington. Yeah, not Liberty. From Washington over to DePeyster. So again, that's about 2 blocks, 3 blocks if you count the cemetery, right? But that's the entire set of changes.
New voters.
Exactly.
So if you live in Ward 2,
Chicago,
nothing
those-
has changed.
I'm sorry?
If you live in Ward 2, nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed. Voters in Chicago. Old Chicago. Okay, so that's it. Any other discussion on this?
I did have a question from a constituent, Drew, and I think you already said this, but if you could just repeat. The question was, why are we not factoring in those properties that are coming online with all of the new development? If you can answer that again.
Sure. This was based on the census done in 2020, and that's what we have to base the changes on in the local law.
Thank you.
Same with congressional districts and everything else. You know, April 1st, 2020 sets the count. Okay. Anything else?
Yep, so 10 years from now, we'll do this all over again.
Right.
Can't wait.
All right, so I'm going to hear the silence as a call for a vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone else? Anyone opposed? Didn't hear any. Okay, so that's done. And let's quickly send the map up to the county so that hopefully they'll match the lines. And that brings us to the third item, which we have already put on the table and discussed, but we'll now look for a motion and a second to authorize the city administrator to execute an agreement with Doyle Contracting on the 2 dam rehabilitations, the dam rehabilitation.
Motion.
Second.
Dan and Molly. Any further discussion on this?
No, it's just like a damn vote.
Okay. We ready? Sounds like we are. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Now for the ever-important approval of minutes from May 2nd.
Second public comment.
I've got minutes first.
Oh, we do minutes before? Okay.
I don't know. I can do either. You're trying to avoid approving the minutes. I can
I
tell.
thought we did second public comment before the, anyway.
Now the highly controversial approval of minutes of May 2nd. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
We might have
Second.
inverted it, but yeah.
Justice and Dan, any changes, additions, corrections, diatribes regarding the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? And now we are here for the less controversial second opportunity for public comments. If you have not had a chance to speak before, this is your opportunity. And anyone in the physical public want to speak? And it's pretty quiet in here. And let me ask if there's anyone out in the electronic public that wants to speak.
Mayor, you have no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay.
We may want to remind people that you mentioned it earlier that there's no meeting next week.
Yeah, that's a good thing. So because there are 5 Mondays in the month, we are skipping next week, and then the following week, it's a holiday on Monday, so we'll be meeting on Tuesday, May 31st. That's our next meeting, and that's when we'll be bringing to you the proposed capital program.
So for those in the
It's going to
public,
be kind of a long meeting.
right, that fourth Monday is the Monday we have off, so next Monday we won't be here. If you like, I will come and bring baklava if anyone wants to come. But otherwise, we'll see you the Tuesday following Memorial Day, right?
Yes.
Yep,
All right.
the 31st.
And there was I'm sorry? Oh, okay, thank you. And then there was a community segment that we were going to do today. We put it off because school got canceled. Right, so we'll reschedule that. And that was the MLK essay contest. So
We'll get that rescheduled.
yeah. And then I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second?
Ren and Dan. Any vigorous discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you all and good night.
Thank you.